So it was so surreal. It was like I still haven't accepted the fact, but every day I was getting treatment. And to get dialysis, when they initially was giving it to me, they was giving it to me like they had something hooked up to like my hip, but they put this thing in my chest, and I had like these wires that they could clean my blood hanging out of my chest. And then they put this little tube on the other side of my chest where they could administer the chemotherapy. So now I can tell you that that's when it really got real. They took me to this like room like this. Those are considered like kind of like surgical procedures. It got real when they wheeled me in that room, you know, and when I came out of that room and I realized those things was on my chest, oh, it got real, Bob. And I realized that, yo, I was in a serious situation.
Welcome to the Well to Lead podcast, where we explore the dynamic relationship between personal wellness and effective leadership. Good morning, guys. This is your host, Bobby Davis here. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us today. Folks, listen, I'm excited this morning to welcome to the show Michael Lassiter. Mike, Minister, CEO of Lassiter Landscaping Services in Virginia Beach. What's up, Mike? How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Bob. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, man, I'm good, brother. I'm good, man. I'm trying to get over the holiday, the holiday turkey conundrum, dealing with all them extra calories and stuff, man. We put on a few days ago, bro. So yeah, man, I'm doing good, man. How was your holiday?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was filled with family, and of course, a lot of good food, and and a little going out and hanging out. Spending time with my nephew. I tend to spend a lot of time with him. I'm down in Raleigh, North Carolina right now, so I tend to spend a lot of time with him because I try to be a mentor to him. But, of course, I got to spend time with his mother and his siblings. So, yeah, it's just been a good time getting away from home and,
that's good.
Everything that you do day to day, just enjoying myself, Bob.
That's good, Mike. That's what's up, man. You know what? That's what the holidays is all about, man. Getting with family. And certainly, we have a whole lot to be thankful for, not just on one particular day, but every day, that God gives us an opportunity to be here on this planet, man. We got a lot to be thankful for. So I'm glad to hear you had a good holiday, man. I'm still trying to recuperating. I told my wife, she said, we still got a lot of leftovers to eat, right? So I was telling her, I said, I'm good for 2 days. I said, but 2 days, I got to revert back to my, my normal eating habits, right? Because I had which is uncharacteristic of me. I don't normally do a lot of sweets. So I had a donut. I had a donut and a like a half a slice of some type of apple fritter type dessert type thing, man. And as soon as I ate it, Mike, I was like, oh my God, I had like a headache right after I ate it, right? Because my body didn't use processing sugar like that.
Okay.
So anyway, I told her, I said, look, I'm back to eating clean. I give it 2 days and I'm back to eating clean. So I started back today, man. So I'm back on my regular routine. You know what I'm saying? Hit the gym. Yeah, got in there, just got my regular eating habit back going again, man, because, you don't want to mess with those sweets too long.
Yeah, you're right.
You're
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. But listen, so Mike, we're going to get right to it, man. Like I told you, bro, I appreciate you coming on. And for our audience, listen, guys, Mike's a good friend of mine, man. I tell you what, this is a solid brother. And he has inspired and touched me in so many different ways. And today, what we want to talk about is we want to talk about, Mike's going to talk about his testimony, his health transformation. And I know that there may be some folks out in our audience right now who are dealing with some health situations that might seem impossible. It might seem that you don't know how you're going to get through whatever the health situation is that you're dealing with. Perhaps you've gotten some bad news from the doctor. You're not sure exactly how to cope. We're here today to encourage you, and Mike's testimony is one that certainly encouraged me. And I believe that, what he's going to share with you guys today is certainly going to be something that's going to impact and hopefully encourage you as you may be dealing with some health struggles. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about, it's about wellness and us coming together and sharing information and things that hopefully can benefit you guys. So, Mike, let's just dive into it, man. I know a lot of this stuff happened, or at least from what I understand, some of this started for you, I guess, in 2018. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's exactly when it happened, Bobby.
Okay. So, 2018. If you can walk us back and take us through this journey, I know that. And folks, let me tell you this about Mike. A couple things about Mike that you're going to see and probably hear in this episode. Mike is he's a gifted storyteller, and so I wanted to mention that because I want to make sure I let him tell the story, because he's so gifted and anointing in that, and he has an incredible memory. That's the other thing about Mike. Mike can remember details about things that happened back 20, 30, 40 years ago. Very vivid memory, very active memory. So I want you to take us back, Mike, if you can, to 2018. And before you get into perhaps, the situation and how things kind of kicked off, tell us what you were doing. Because I know that you were, you're a business owner. I know that you were, doing a lot of things in your business back there. But can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before, things kind of went the way they did, perhaps?
Okay, so yes, back in about 2018, I was just doing what I normally do. I work as a heavy equipment operator. Also, on top of the fact that I own my own business, and my business was really thriving, doing well, and I was just basically doing what I do, working, progressing, and everything. And I had an accident or incident at my job, and I actually fell down, and I landed on my butt. I didn't land on my back, but I hurt my back in the process of doing that. And so this wasn't the first time I hurt my back, but, the injury actually put me out of work for a while. I was home on bed rest for easily at least 2 weeks, just thinking it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Because it happened before and it got better and I was fine. And so, my brother came to visit me and he was like, "What's going on?" I said, "I hurt my back." He said, "Well, how long have you been like this?" I said, "It's been about 2 weeks." He said, "Have you thought about going to the doctor?" I said, "No, I'll be fine because this has happened before." And he said, "I think you need to go to the doctor or go to the emergency room." I said, "No, let's give it another day or two." So sure enough, in about 2 days, my brother came back. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" He was like, "Man, I'm here to take you to the doctor or to the emergency room." So he insisted, and I tried to insist that I was fine. And so I went ahead and went to the emergency room, and, the doctors looked at me and everything, and I told them what was going on. I told them what happened, and they thought that they were going to they said, "Well, we'll just probably get prescribed some type of pain medicine for you and send you home." However, they did do some blood work. They took some blood. And when they looked at my blood, they saw some things going on with my blood, blood counts, that suggested that there was something very serious going on. I mean, so I'm sitting and I'm waiting for the doctor to come back with the prescription. And instead, a nurse comes back and say, "Mr. Lassiter, we've seen some things in your blood. We're going to have to keep you for tonight." And so my mouth dropped. I was like, what? Keep me for tonight. So anyway, now I'm a little nervous because I don't know what's going on. I'm wondering what's going on that they need to keep me for the night. So I remember the way it happened is they had me waiting in this room, like laying on like a hospital bed. And, you know, a couple nurses came out, they wheeled me out and took me to this room. When they took me to this room, there was a couple people, I don't know if it was any doctors, but, you know, everyone had masks on because it was COVID at the time. And I'm asking one of the ladies, one of the nurses, I'm like, what's going on? She's assuring me, Mr. Lassiter, everything's gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. And so this other lady comes in and she kind of tells me what's going on. But Bob, I don't know what she means. Well, we gonna have to do this. I don't know what that means. So they do what they have to do. The next thing you know, Bobby, it's a Friday night. Like they gave me something to put me to sleep Friday night. And I don't remember anything from Friday night until Sunday morning when I woke up.
Wow.
I woke up Sunday morning. And a lot had happened. A lot happened between that Friday night and Sunday morning that I didn't know about. A lot of things that are important that I will mention a little bit later.
Right.
But I woke up yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me ask you this. So what got you to the doctor was the event that happened on the job.
Yes.
So prior to that, you didn't have any other indicators, any other pain that you had noticed? There was nothing else that was going on that you noticed prior to?
I did have indicators, Bob, but I kind of ignored them. And then I've had some coworkers and family and friends say, hey, why don't you go to the doctor? But I just say to myself, no, I'm just getting old. I'm just getting older. That's what it is. You know, and then I, you know, to be honest with you, I just didn't want to go to the doctor. I thought that I was good and I didn't want to go to the doctor. I didn't want to hear anything negative about my health from the doctor. So that's the truth.
Right.
So I found out later than sooner. It was a doctor appointment that I didn't go to, that I skipped probably about 2 months prior, that if I had went to, the doctor would have been able to tell me what was going on then, and the matter wouldn't have got as worse. And I tell you, if I hadn't hurt myself at work, Bobby, there's no telling what would have happened, where I would have ended up in. Because I probably wouldn't even have known, okay, I could have been in a situation where things got so bad and it's just hard to say. But I can tell you that in those 2 days, that from that Friday to Sunday, what I was told by my sister and a good friend of hers was that very night, that Friday night, when I came to the hospital, when I was asleep, when I was out, the doctors said that they were told that I was very sick. They said, Mr. Lassiter is very sick. And I didn't know I was very sick, Bob. I just thought it was my back. She said, he's very sick. And I found this out sometime later. They were told that it's a good chance that I wouldn't make it through the night. That Friday night, Bob. Yeah, that's right.
So Mike, let me go back. I want to go back again to the point, and I want to highlight this because, and the reason why I want to make sure that we go back to this point is because you said something that I think is really, 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 really important that we highlighted as you continue to dig deeper into the story. You said something about being afraid to go to the doctor because of possible bad news. And had you went to the doctor, let's just say for regular checkups or what have you, then there would have been the possibility that you could have possibly been able to, or they may have been able to catch this stuff.
Yes.
Before it got too bad.
Yes.
And the reason why I wanted for us to pause here and kind of talk a little bit about this part is because your situation is reminiscent of what happens, especially to African American men. And the stats prove this out, that we probably don't go to the doctor. We're probably the worst when it comes to going to the doctor on a regular basis and getting annual checkups. And most of the time, you know, like you said, it's because we feel that we're having some challenges, you know, some pain here or there. You just kind of, you know, shake it off and just chalk it up to old age. But the reason why I wanted us to make sure we talk about this part is because that's the whole part about preventive maintenance. And see, this is interesting to me because, and I was like you. It took something to happen for me to realize the importance of going to the doctor annually, because there used to be a time I didn't. But when your health start failing you, you start realizing, hey, you know, I need to go in here and get things checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is we'll spend more time taking our cars to the shop for preventive maintenance than we do going into the doctor's office on a regular basis and just making sure we, you know, get those annual checkups. And like I said, it just happens to be one of those cases where African American men suffer from this probably greater than any other demographic, or they also suffer from probably poor health more than any other demographic. And that's the reason why it's important for us to make sure we get to the doctor's office on a regular basis for the annuals. And I just want to get your thought on that as you continue to, you know, peel back the story for us.
Yeah, yes, but we as men, we are more concerned with any and everything else than our own health. Our health is probably like at the back of the list of things that are our concerns or our priority. And I think it has to do with like the male ego, the bravado of the male ego. I can suck it up. I just need to be tough. Or they think that, you know, you can fix it with maybe like a Tylenol or some icy hot or something that you drink, you know, get some tea with some honey. And, you know, not saying that those things don't suffice. However, you know, when you have something going on and you shouldn't be hesitant to at least go to the doctor and let the doctor tell you, oh, it's nothing major, you know, and let them tell you that.
Right.
And
Right.
some of us don't like to go because we don't want to spend the money of going to the doctor. And a lot of us don't want to go because we are weary of some bad news that could come about. If that is the case, if it does come to them telling you something that you didn't want to hear, it's better to hear it sooner than later. Because it's sad,
That's right.
sad to say, there's been a lot of cases where people have waited. Well, let's just say men have waited. And then when they finally, and they end up going anyway, you're going to end up going anyway. So
Right.
when they finally get there, the doctor give them some news that they didn't want to hear, some bad news. But then the doctor says, well, if you had came here, how long were you going through the symptoms? How long were the symptoms there? It's been here.
Right.
If you had came at this time, it wouldn't have been as bad, and we would have been able to do something to help you. And I know a brother that I work with, and I remember him talking to another co-worker of mine about him feeling bad. Co-worker said, man, you need to go to the doctor. He says, man, I don't want to go to the doctor. He said, I don't want him to tell me nothing bad. He said, I don't want him to tell me nothing bad. And the brother waited and waited. And he went to the doctor and he had cancer. Sad to say, he had cancer.
Wow.
And, you know, the cancer was too far gone by that time. But I found out he had cancer probably about at least 2 years after the conversation between him and the other brother at the job. 2 years. And I'm like, and so, you know, that's just an example. And my personal experience is an example. Because if I had went to the doctor when I was supposed to, I don't believe it would have got that bad as it got. And Bobby, it got bad. It got bad,
Right.
You know.
So Mike, share with us, if you can, again, take us back to now you're in the hospital
Mhm.
and you went there because of the, what you thought to be was the back injury.
Yes.
And you realize that, obviously, perhaps you could have, if you had your annual checkups, you might could have caught some of this stuff ahead of time. And again, guys, we just want to make sure that everybody's aware that, how important it is for you to make sure you have your annual checkups, and to not take your health for granted, because some could be going on and you may be able to catch it. So you're in the hospital now and you're not sure exactly what's going on at this point. They give you all this medication. Walk us through that scene again in terms of, what was going on in the hospital.
So, Bobby, I came in that Friday night. All I was dealing with was back pain. Okay. So, and I must say, in all fairness, the strength of my legs had really gone a lot. Over that 2 weeks that I was out from the back injury, the strength of my legs, I could barely walk. But I came in with those issues going on, the back pain and the loss of strength of my legs. And like I said, that Friday night, when I went to sleep, I woke up Sunday. When I woke up Sunday, I was in the hospital, of course, and I was looking around. There was a nurse in the hospital. The nurse said, "Mr. Lassiter, do you know?" She said, "You woke?" She said, "Do you know where you are?" I said, "I'm in the hospital." Yeah, and she said, "Do you know what's going on?" I said, "No." And this lady says, "Mr. Lassiter, you're on dialysis."
Wow.
She says, "You're on dialysis." And that's exactly what I said. I think my mouth didn't drop on my eyes. And I thought that I was in a movie. I had been abducted, like a movie, maybe I had been abducted and I'm in a whole nother world. I'm like, and I'm saying, no, this can't be real. And at some time when I was going through it initially, I thought maybe I was just in a bad dream. And it's saying maybe I'm going to wake up. But she says, "You're going through she says, "You're on dialysis." And then she said, "Mr. Lassiter, you're very sick." Okay. She didn't have any answers, and from then they would come in and do different things. And I didn't know what was really going on. And then a doctor would come in and explain to me what was going on. You're on dialysis. We found there's something that's was found in your blood. We need to clean your blood, and it's causing your kidneys function, is affecting your kidney function. And so, okay, I'm on dialysis. Okay. So for like 2 days, doctors were doing tests. They were doing tests. No one knew exactly what was going on, but they did know based on my blood numbers that I was sick. I was very sick, and you can see how it was affecting my kidneys. And of course, they didn't know about my legs being weak, but they later found out. But anyway, the doctors would come in and out. We would do a whole bunch of different tests, and finally, a lady named Dr. Gari Radkar, she's an oncologist. I remember her coming in and out with like several other doctors, and she came in one morning, and every day I'm getting like either dialysis or plasma. Every day they get dialysis one day and plasma the next. They give me plasma the next because my plasma was low. They give me plasma one day, and I was going through that. And then she came in. She said, "Mr. Lassiter, we think we may know after about 3 days. We think we may know what's going on. We believe that you have what they call multiple myeloma. So multiple myeloma. So that the name sounded a little scary, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So my brother, he's in the room. So I look at him, he look at me, we look at her. She said, it's like a cancer in your blood. It's like a blood cancer." So we look at each other again, because keeping in mind about 3 years, 3 to 2 years before then, we lost our mother to cancer.
Really?
Yeah. So to hear that, and that's what I was going through, we looked at each other, and so, she said, "Mr. Lassiter, we believe we can help you. We caught it at a decent time. And keep in mind, they could have caught it probably 2 months earlier.
Right.
Okay. So now I'm in the hospital and I'm going through dialysis. And now they started treating it. Like they started giving me like chemo while I was in the hospital. So I was getting a chemo and dialysis at the same time, Bob. Chemo and dialysis at the same time. And so it was so surreal. It was like I still haven't accepted the fact. But every day I was getting treatment. And to get dialysis, when they initially was giving it to me, they was giving it to me like they had something hooked up to like my hip. But they put this thing in my chest. And I had like these wires that they could clean my blood hanging out of my chest. And then they put this little tube on the other side of my chest where they could administer the chemotherapy. So now I can tell you that that's when it really got real. They took me to this like room like this. Those are considered like kind of like surgical procedures. It got real when they wheeled me in that room, and when I came out of that room and I realized those things was on my chest, oh, it got real, Bob. And I realized that, I was in a serious situation.
So let me ask you this. Every time you tell the story, I'm always captivated by it, right? Because you're describing something and you're walking us through it, and you're walking us through it to where I can see the pictures, which is, again, it's just pretty amazing, the things that you're sharing. As you're talking, I'm thinking about Friday. I'm thinking about what you just went in on a Friday, and you went in because you hurt your back. I mean, and all of this stuff has transpired, and you being, you're having all this stuff just kind of dropped on you unexpectedness. Can you talk to us about what you were thinking? I know there was a lot of stuff going on, and you've described the scene in the room. You've described the folks that were working with you, the doctors and nurses and stuff. But what was happening with you in your thinking? Because again, you went in for a back injury, and all of a sudden now you on dialysis, you got this diagnosis, you got all this stuff going on, and it happened so quickly. So, can you talk to us about what you were thinking? What were you feeling, or did you even have time to process that part?
First, I had to process it, and I don't know if I was in denial. I don't think I was in denial, but I was kind of stuck in a mindset of, how did this happen? Where did this come from? And then I said, why am I going through this? And then I began to talk to God, and I was like, Lord, why? I asked this question not often, but I did say, Lord, why me? And I said, how did this happen to me? And you reflect a lot, and but I will say this. As a believer, I always knew that God was there with me, no matter what I was going through. And I share this with everyone. While I was in the hospital, the doctors would come in day to day and tell me how things were going, if I was progressing, how much I was progressing, and how things were going. And the doctors would come in and say stuff, and it wasn't always the best reports that they would give me, but there would be nurses in there with them, of course, doing their jobs. And I remember one time the doctor said something, right? And it wasn't something that was very encouraging. And the nurse, I never forget, she was on the side of me. After the doctor said we said, and she leaned over and whispered in my ear, she said, "I've seen people worse off than you, Mr. Lassiter." I said, and now they're fine. Yeah, they're not having any problems. And the nurse said, you just got to have faith. You just got to pray. Just trust what God says. Just pray. The nurse did that one time before. I never forget that, Bob. And then sometime down the line, probably about a week later, because I was in the hospital all of two plus weeks, 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. And
Really?
Again, they came in with some news that doctors came in with some news that wasn't that encouraging. And again, a nurse And I don't know if it was the same nurse because they had masks on. Again, this is COVID. They whispered, she whispered the same encouragement of having faith and believing. And that's when I realized, once I began to actually understand and, I've embraced the fact that I'm going through this. That's when I had to use everything that I've learned and everything that they grew in me about my faith and what I believe, what about God, what's just about God and who he is and everything all the testimonies, all the scriptures that I heard, all the testimonies, those things they had to become like, I had to live out what I had read and learned and heard. And it was surreal. And I had to put my faith to the test. It's different in life when you have to put your faith to the test rather than actually encouraging somebody or telling somebody about a story. When you have to live the story, it's very different. It's very different. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Mike. And you're, again, right on point. The fact is that you was experiencing this by yourself. Your brother was there. Of course, family was there to help in whatever way they could. And then you had the doctors there. And of course, you were fortunate that God sent someone your way in the medical profession that was able to encourage you. But you said something that's very critical that I hopefully our audience will be able to capture this piece, is that you had to walk this out. You had to draw from another source at the time when things were just simply not looking good. You were getting these bad reports and, you're having to endure this alone, essentially. And I think it's important for our audience to know, especially for those who might be dealing with something like this, and they feel like they're by themselves. They feel like they may be, going through this process by themselves, that they can draw from another source, and that source is God. I mean, he's the unlimited source that can supply the strength and the encouragement that's needed to help you through whatever circumstances or situations you may find yourself in. And as I'm listening to you, it sounds like that's exactly what you did. You were able to draw from the scriptures that you had that heard and memorized over the years, and things that, words of encouragement. And when you were able to do that, Mike, how did that help you cope daily with all of the things that were going on?
I couldn't make sense of it. And all I could do was believe or trust in what the doctors were telling me and trust in what God was telling me. And so it just gave me peace. I didn't have to worry about it or be concerned. I didn't have to be worried. I didn't have to be scared. It allowed me to not be scared. It allowed me to just kind of like sit back and just let God be who he is. I was really like at a place where I was just real with the situation. And I said, God, I believe you can do all things.
That's right.
And I believe that. I tell people that. And so whatever you choose to do, I'm at peace with it. I told him I'm at peace with it. And so, Bob,
now you mentioned to me, I feel sorry to keep cutting you off because you got so much, or you got so much.
It gave me peace. Having God gave me peace during the hardest time of my life.
When you said something, earlier about when you told me when we talked before, you had mentioned that you had settled this or made peace with it with God, and you said something to the nature that you had mentioned to God that you wanted to be here. You still wanted to be here, that you felt like there was still work for you to do. Can you talk to us about that part right there? When you had this conversation with the Lord, when you had come to grips with where you were, with the situation being what it is. Talk to us about that part.
Yes, I was in the hospital and I was laying in the bed at night and no one was in the room at the time. And I said to myself, actually, I said to God, I said, Lord, you know, I don't have the final say. You have the final say, and I respect that. I wouldn't love you any more or any less if you choose to bring me home. And I said, you know, but we did. I lost my mother about 3 years ago, and I'm the oldest of all my siblings. And I said it, and it would be I believe it would be very difficult and hard for them to deal with me going right now, not long after my mother had left. And so I said, and that was really the only thing that I really, and I said, and plus, I know I haven't done the work that you have for me here. So, but I said, whatever you do, like, I guess like what Jesus said in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he said, nevertheless, not my will, but your will.
That's right.
And that was real. I was real, Bob, because I knew that there was nothing I could do. And you just don't know, you never know how it's going to go. You never know how it's going to go. But I tell you this, though, Bob, I tell you this, even though I was going through it, I was still loving the Lord. I was still praising God, and I was still worshiping God. You know, I was still doing all the things that God has always called us, because my situation didn't have anything to do. Well, it's my love for God and me loving him the way he's supposed to be loved had nothing to do with my situation. Wow. And I had to learn that, Bob.
That
right there. That's
no, you're right. You're right, because as you walking us through the story, you could have stayed in that. You could have stayed in that that denial stage, or you could have stayed in that stage where you was questioning, why me? You know, why did this happen to me? You know, you could have stayed in that stage, and you know, so often that's what happens sometimes. You know, we get in that space, and it's like, you know, something's bad going on, and then all of a sudden it's like, woe is me. Why did this happen? God, why did you allow this to happen? And sometimes you can stay in that space, which is not the space you want to stay in, because what you've done is you've walked us through a journey, you know, from the day you got in the hospital to the day you woke up on that Sunday, and you had all this stuff hooked up to you, and all of the emotions and just the thoughts that were going through your mind, but you didn't stay in that space. And you moved to a place where you came to a space of acceptance. And like you said, you know, about God's will being done. And that's powerful, man. And that's something that you're right, you know, that you had to come to grips with, and you were able to walk this out in real time. And certainly listening to you, I can only imagine, I know it wasn't easy to do that. Because a lot of times we want to make sense of stuff and you know, try to figure out why something happened and this, that, or the third. And you'd never come to a place of peace. But now that you've gotten there, you've gotten to this place of peace, you've accepted the situation for what it is. How long, I think you might have already answered this. How long were you in the hospital for? Was it 2 weeks or was it longer?
I want to say I was in there for at least 2 weeks. You know, I'm thinking maybe 2.5 weeks. I remember going in the hospital. I want to say I woke up, the day that I woke up in the hospital, it might have been like October the 14th. And then when I came out of the hospital, it was cold outside.
Really?
It was in November. October, when I went in, it wasn't cold. It hadn't got cold yet. It was October the 14th. And it was cold, my brother picked me up. He and my cousin. It was cold outside, Bob.
That's amazing.
It was cold outside. It was November. So at least 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks, at least two. And I came, it's been longer than 4 years, Bob, but I can say that, yeah, it was cold outside. I think it was November. It was at least 2 weeks.
When did you start seeing improvement? So now you've been in there for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. When did you when did you start seeing improvement? When did you feel like you turned the corner? Because all this bad news, all this stuff going on. I mean, when did you turn the corner?
I walk around, my weight is about 215.
Okay.
And that's the weight that I was then. And at the hospital, my lowest point, I got down to 165 pounds. Okay, so, my legs were very weak, but with the treatment that they gave me in the hospital, they had a physical therapist coming in to help me walk. But with the treatment, so I actually saw my health start to improve because the physical therapist had left, and by the time she came back, I could walk better by myself than I could with her helping me. She came through. She was about she would come through every 4 or 5 days, and so I said, well, wow, I'm improving right there. So, but this is where I really saw the turnaround, Bob. So when I came home, I was getting kidney dialysis 3 times a week for 4 hours, and I was getting chemotherapy for 2 times a week. Was it 2 times? Yeah, at least 2 times a week. And I was getting radiation for like about 2 months. I got radiation like once a week. That was my routine. I was going through all that. And then this is where I really began to see it turn around. I was in dialysis one day, and a dialysis nurse came by, and she said, Mr. Lassiter, we were looking at your blood, and your numbers looking like they've gotten better. They're getting better. If it stays like this, then we could possibly be taking you off of dialysis. My mouth dropped. So my mouth dropped. I was like, really? She was like, yes. Again, one of the nurses in the dialysis center said encouraging words to me. She said, I've seen people worse off than you. He said, do you believe God? Do you have faith? Are you a believer? I said, yes, ma'am, I am. And she said, well, you keep praying and you keep believing what God says. And sure enough, and that nurse said that, Bob, and probably about 2 weeks later, I was off dialysis. 2 weeks later, I was off dialysis. And that had to be probably about 3 weeks. 3 weeks to a month after I came out of the hospital.
Okay. When did you start?
I was off.
When did you start picking back up weight? How long did it take before you started picking back up your weight?
So while I was on dialysis, I didn't pick up any weight. So that's about a month. I was about the same weight for about a month out of the hospital. And then probably I started picking up weight probably about a month and a half out of getting out of the hospital. Probably a couple weeks later after I was taken off of dialysis.
What about the chemo and radiation and all that stuff? How long did you stay on that?
So by the time I was taken off of dialysis, radiation I only had radiation for maybe like 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Okay, so I was done with radiation, but I was still getting dialysis and chemo. Then they took me off the dialysis, and now I'm just getting chemo. Okay, so the chemo went for a while, for several months, for a while. Yeah. But I was getting better. And so,
were you able to start back to, when did you start back to work, or were you able to start back?
So I couldn't start back to work until the doctor felt like I was healthy enough to go back and do that. So I was out for 6 months.
Okay. All right.
So,
yeah, that's no point.
Yeah. So even when I came out of the hospital, I was still out for probably at least another 4, 5 months, at least another 5.5 months, at least another 5.5 months from the time I got out of the hospital, at least another maybe 5.5 months. Yeah. I was out of hospital for half a year. I mean, I was out of work for half a year.
Wow.
Half a year. And when I went back to work, I was getting chemo. They had to give me, so the chemo went down less and less and less and less until I got to the point to where I didn't need it anymore. So, and I started to gain a little weight here and there. And then once I got to the point where I didn't need the chemo, and uh, that's when I really started to gain the weight more and more. And I remember my brother, he had a great suggestion. He was like, he said, bro, I know that you're not yourself. He says, and I know you just trying to recover. And I would get sad because I just felt like physically I was a shell of myself. And my brother said, why don't you just start trying to exercise in some way? I was like, man, I'm too weak to exercise. He was like, well, anything you can do. If you can go and walk from here to the mailbox every day. And so, you know, I did what I could, walked around the neighborhood a little. And then when I got myself together to where I could start driving, I went back to the gym. And everything was a challenge because going back to the gym, I just was not myself at all. And I was so far away from who I had been that I actually would be in the gym trying to lift weights, trying to work out, and I would be crying. No one could see it. I would be crying. I would try, and then sometimes I just stop and just leave.
Wow.
Just stop and just leave. But I'd always come back. I'd always come back. And it seemed like it was no need for it. But some said, just get up and go anyway. And I just kept going anyway. And it seemed like I was getting nowhere. And after a while, I progressed. I saw progress. And progress wasn't fast, but it was a slow progress, but it was progress. And I got better and better and improved. My health improved. But it was a journey, Bob. It was a journey. It was a journey.
It certainly sounds like it was, Mike. And you know, like I said, man, I'm so appreciative of you coming on and sharing this, because what it does, it gives us hope. You know, when we're faced with, you know, impossible situations, you know, and certainly situations where we don't have any answers for at the moment. And it's also encouraging how, you know, you came out of this, you know, the transition from the hospital, you know, to being back home, and just the whole transition on how you got off of dialysis, and, you know, and you gradually got off of some of those other treatments that you were receiving. When did you feel like that you had hit a place of somewhat normalcy? Because now you've been out of work for 6 months or so. And when did you feel like you got to a place where you were kind of, you know, somewhat normal again, based on how you were before you got sick?
A little over a year ago, I felt like, wow, yeah, I got all my weight back, and a lot of I was walking on that like that. It took me a while to walk normal. I kind of walked, slightly leaned over. I couldn't bend down. I couldn't bend over. I couldn't tie my shoes. I couldn't even reach my shoes sometimes. I had a time. But as far as being normal, being able to do things, a lot of basic things like bending over to put my pants on, that was a challenge. As far as being normal, now I got past that several years ago. However, but feeling like myself, about a little past a year.
Okay.
It's been a journey. Good new time.
Yeah, it sounds like it's taking some time. And, you know, I'm I get encouraged, man, every time I see that picture you and I took when we went to Planet Fitness to work out. Remember that picture we took when we had worked out that one time? And I always think about that picture, and I think about your journey, you know, and as you are, you know, articulating that to our audience, I mean, the time, you know, it took you to transition, you know, through all of these stages and all of these challenges and difficulties. And now, you know, you feel like Mike, you know, you feel like yourself. But it took some time to get there. The most important thing, hopefully, that people are going to, you know, see from this is that be okay with the process, be okay with things taking some time, you know, especially when you've had such a major setback in your health, like what you experienced, that it may take some time for you to get back to a place of recovery, where you feeling normal. if I can use that word normal, just feeling sort of like yourself before things kind of happen. But, as we get ready to close this out, Mike, what are some of the things you want to just convey to people who might be dealing with some of the same stuff that you went through? If you were having a conversation with them instead of me, what would you tell them? Yeah, they're on that sick bed and they're dealing with these life-threatening situations. How would you approach them and how would you encourage them?
I would like to tell anyone that's going through anything that I've gone through, someone right now that could be going through a tough time with their health, pray to God and be settled with whatever God decides. And believe that, like, the people and the doctor are going to tell you some things. Believe what God says. Believe what God says.
That's good stuff.
And make sure especially if you're a believer, don't stop doing what you always do. Continue to worship God. Continue to don't let whatever you're going through stop you from serving God or doing for God what you normally do. Don't let that stop you. And always especially make sure you're getting your checkups, your yearly exams, that, get your blood, make sure you're getting your blood work. And people that you know and love, I encourage coworkers. Hey, you're this age, it's a couple of brothers that I work with. They're my age or they're a little older, they're 50 plus. I say, hey, have you done this? You might want to look into that. Somebody's going through something like even some of the younger brothers or younger people, they going through something. I was like, you might want to go get that checked out and I share my experience. I was like, I'm going to tell you what I went through. Everybody know what I went through at my job and friends, co-workers, family. I tell family, hey, I didn't do this when I could have did this. You should have did. You might want to consider going to the doctor and see what they have to say about it. But just and you have to, and you can't get impatient. You cannot get impatient with the process or your progress.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
You can't get impatient. You can't get impatient. And what I learned, Bob, was that everything that I went through and that I've gone through in my life from my childhood up until that point prepared me to go through that.
Wow.
And you'll find out that a lot of what you've gone through in your life prepares you for the tough battles, the toughest battle, which can be your health or other things. You are prepared. You have what you need, but just don't believe that you don't think that you're going to end up the way that someone else has ended up. Believe that your situation is going to be different. Believe that your situation can be different, and that's it. And talk to and have positive people around you. Have praying people around you. Have praying people, because when I came back to work, some of the people that I worked with or that I know, my man, I was praying for you, and I was saying thank you. And Bob, I felt those prayers, Bob. I really did. But some of them people, I looked at them, and you can't judge a book by its cover. And I was saying, you know how to, they know.
Yeah, I know.
Man, I thank God because he hear people when they call on him. God hear people when they call on them, and I thank God that he did pray. Have praying people around you. Love people. When you come through it, love somebody. Be there for somebody that's going through something.
Wow.
Be there.
Oh, man, this is so powerful, man. I tell you what, I am encouraged today, listening at, you share this, and I know our audience is going to be encouraged by this. And Mike, I do want to ask you this, because you've you went through something very powerful and very difficult. and I may be some folks out there who may be facing some similar challenges. Do you have a way for folks that they can reach you? You know, I know you are looking at ways that you can, you know, expand your opportunities to share this message and this testimony with folks, but do you have any specific way folks can reach out to you if they got questions? Maybe they might be dealing with cancer, maybe they might be dealing with dialysis and things of that nature. You know, can they catch you or reach out to you somewhere?
Sure, Bob. They can reach me at my email. You know, my email is Mr. Lassiter 757 at gmail.com. That's MRLASSITER 757 at gmail.com. Yeah, just reach out to me and just tell me who you are and what you're going through and any questions that you may have, and I'll be glad to just get back to you and you know, let you know what I think and give you my input, give you some encouragement, maybe share some information with you that I might have learned, put you in touch with somebody that could help you more than maybe what I can. I feel like because of what I've been through, that's what I'm here for.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's it, man. That's good stuff. Any last words? Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
You know, I want to thank God for allowing me to be here on the platform, and I really like and appreciate what you're doing, Bob.
Thank you.
And I get a lot out of a lot of your other guests, that you had up here so far, and you know, just everybody keep tuning in to Bobby Davis's
Well to Lead. That's it.
Well to Lead. Yes, Well to Lead podcast, because he has a lot. It has a lot to offer. The guests have been great, and I've learned a lot, and I'm learning a lot. And take care of yourselves. Go get your checkups. You know, men that are, and they say 45, go get that colonoscopy. Go get that prostate. Get that yearly checkup. Get some blood work done. Get that yearly. Go to the doctor. Don't put that off. Don't be scared. You know, and mainly just trust God, believe God, and pray to God. You know, and you know, that's basically all I have to say. Anybody want to reach out to me and get in touch with me, please reach out at the email. I'll be glad to speak with you, whatever, give you some encouragement, you know. So other than that, that's it, Bob. Everyone enjoy your holidays. This is that time of year. Hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Fantastic, Mike. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. And as always, I'm inspired whenever I'm around you. I'm always inspired, man, just by your personality and the great things that you do to share, to always help add value to the lives of people. So I appreciate you so much for sharing. And folks, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. I will mention, in conjunction with one of the things that Mike just shared, that we have an upcoming event that'll probably be sometime in the first quarter of 2025, where we're going to be putting on perhaps a 5K that's going to be geared towards wellness. And we'll have at that event opportunities for you to come in and actually have blood work done on site. So we're working with a couple local charities and partners that are in that medical space to come out and participate and be a part of this wellness event. So just look forward to more details coming. We anticipate that again being first quarter of 2025. And again, Mike, thanks, man, for all your all your words of encouragement and sharing your story. And folks, until next week, I certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great rest of the day. Look forward to speaking with you again on next week. Take care. Bye-bye.